We were talking about the same situation. Could this be Vaughn's last year? And we were talking even just yesterday, Tyler, right? Like, what would it take? What would the numbers look like with Vaughn and Bradley Chubb to justify having Vaughn back?
Right.
And we kind of came up, Mark. Well, we think Vaughn and Bradley together would have to be as a combo in the top 5 as a combo in sacks, something like that.
Well, yeah, I think more specifically, I said if they were hovering around that 20, 24, 25 range,
Oh, yeah.
That's one heck of a season. Like you can't break that up.
Yeah, that would be tremendous. And like if they get to that number where now I guess it's different if Bradley Chubb had 17, and you're on your way, and I don't know what the math is there, if Vaughn had 8,
seven or 8, yeah.
What's 24 minus
right,
17?
Yeah,
Mark?
I mean, math is not my strong suit. Yeah. Wait a minute, I'm a general studies. I have a general studies degree from the University of Idaho, which means my education is an inch deep and a mile wide. Math is way too specific for me.
Actually,
that's way hard.
Actually, Mark, you're leading towards an interesting question there because if let's say that Von Miller only ends up with 7 sacks on the season, but they still get there. What if it really is that low? Okay, well, what does that mean? I mean, at some point, DeMarcus Ware was pretty valuable to Von Miller,
Sure.
right?
Yeah, but I would tell you this though, like DeMarcus Ware's value has always been to me, he was a great player. He was a great edge setter. He was a really good run defender. You know him better than I did, right? You played with him, but that's how I always respected his game. Not that I don't respect Vaughn's, because I do respect Vaughn's, but the leadership value of a DeMarcus Ware, like Vaughn is not that type of leader. Vaughn is self-described as the happy action fun guy, get guys together for dinner, do all those things. There's a difference from a value standpoint there from what DeMarcus Ware brought from a leadership standpoint that I think that what Vaughn brings. And no fault of his own. I mean, that's just like he's being authentic. He is who he is, and that's okay. But where does that value lie if your production is down versus what DeMarcus Ware's value is if he had down production? Because there's a different type of leadership there.
Are you expecting this to be Vaughn's last year?
Yes.
You are.
Yeah, I am. I mean, I think now that's subject to change. You ball out of control, and there's
no. But I asked you what you thought.
Right.
Like where your head is at. Right
My head is you have a lot of decisions to make, and with age and money are 2 big decisions. And are you going to pay? Are you going to pay Vaughn? Are you going to are you going to pay him, what is it, 20 some odd million next year? Are you willing to bite that bullet, or do you want to clear that cap space or move that cap space around? And if you're Von Miller, if you say to him, hey, you had a really good season, you had 10 sacks or whatever, but we want to rearrange your salary and we want you to take a significant, pay decrease. Like if you're Vaughn, why would you do that? So those are the things that I think about in regards to Von Miller, and unfortunately, there's very few John Elways of the world that get to play with one franchise throughout the entirety of their career, win a Super Bowl, and ride off into the sunset.
Right.
It just doesn't happen that way in today's football.
Mark, we're on Jets week here on the drive, and you called in yesterday, told a fantastic story about meeting with VJ after this in particular game with the Jets. But more curious, generally speaking, when you see the Jets right now, what on the surface level do you see?
Well, I think one, I see a team in transition. A team that obviously struggled last year. Struggled with their offensive line. They addressed, in the draft, they addressed the offensive line, which they certainly needed to. And a quarterback that hasn't yet figured it out, even though he was a very high draft pick and all those things. It's hard when you haven't been protected and you're trying to create a system. And so those are all things that I look at, from just a pure talent standpoint. Hey, Brashard Perriman that they picked up from Tampa, former first rounder for the Ravens. He can really run. There was a real connection with Jameis Winston early in like preseason, and I did a couple of games, so I know this, like huge connection, and then fell off the face of the earth and was really never heard of until the end of the season when Mike Williams became injured, and then had a couple of really big games kind of back to back. Then I look at the rest of what they have, and I don't see a ton of I just don't see a ton of dynamic depth, dynamic players, guys that you have to game plan for. Le'Veon Bell is a really good back, but again, like he hasn't done a lot the last couple of years to make you feel like, oh gosh, how are we going to contend with that guy? So I just look at a very average football team.
Mark, it's been quite a day from this morning from Vic Fangio, and I'm sure while you were doing your show in the morning, you were just seeing, wow. I mean, it was rough sledding there for Coach Fangio. He came out earlier this afternoon, and he addressed the team again and put out a statement saying, I was wrong, and I apologize. What's your reaction to the day that it's been for Vic Fangio?
Well, I mean, I understand. Like, I understand coming out. Obviously, the league has addressed the racism issue, has addressed, tried to curb that or fix that with the Rooney Rule, tried to amend the Rooney Rule, and they have at least recognized it and said, hey, yes, it does exist, and so we're trying to deal with it. Have they done a great job with it? Probably not, but at least they've addressed it, and they're trying to be proactive about it. Initially when I heard Vic's comments, I was like, that's probably going to get him into trouble, but I thought I understood he was talking about meritocracy within the locker room, within the guys who are playing. Like, you earn your play. Like, it doesn't matter if you come from a small school like what I came from, or you come from CU, or you come from Alabama. If you can play, you get to play. If you can't, you're not going to play. And that has never changed. And there is that camaraderie in a locker room that you understand that, and it breaks down, economic barriers, socioeconomic barriers. It breaks down color. It doesn't matter. You really create bonds in that environment. And I think that's what, Vic was saying to me when I heard his comments initially, was in the locker room. There aren't race issues in the locker room. It's a meritocracy. The guys who are the best players get to play. But again, we are in a very sensitive time, and I think one thing that I've tried to adhere to personally is sometimes you need to shut up and you need to listen, and I think that's the best advice is sometimes you just need to listen. People want their voice to be heard, and ultimately your opinion sometimes doesn't matter. Sometimes it's just best to sit back, best to listen. And and be slow to speak and quick to listen, and that's a biblical phrase. But I have tried to adhere to that here recently as I've watched the news and watched our nation kind of some of these things unfold, and so that's really where my heart has been, is just to really sit back and try to get a grasp and really listen to what's going on in our nation.
Good stuff, Mark. As always, we always appreciate you coming on.
Buddy.
And we'll listen to you. And I know you miss your boo. He's on vacation a little bit, right?
Well, no. He just had a colonoscopy today. So.
Oh, he did?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Literally?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He had a colonoscopy.
Oh.
So
how'd it go?
It was I think it was tremendous. I told him though, if you
good experience,
if they roll you in there and there's an alien like ET is in there, I said get off that table. Like,
go.
Good
idea.
Run.
Good idea.
Run. Yeah. So
wow. I apologize. I just thought he was, because I saw a picture of him playing golf over the weekend, and I thought he was. Wow, that's the worst vacation of all time. But I'm glad he's doing it. That's a good healthy thing to do.
Yeah. No. It's easy. It's an easy, I mean, you just got to get over. There comes a time in your life where you just don't give a rip anymore about just about anything. You're just like, yeah, whatever. Hey, man, I got to poop. I'm going to go in the other room. You're just like, whatever. So good for Mike. Take
Absolutely.
Care of
No, absolutely. Okay. Well, so
All
he'll
right.
be back tomorrow?
That was a good talk.
He will be back tomorrow in a depends undergarment, getting ready to roll.
Back to changed man.
Yes, exactly.
All right.
All right.
Well, you say stupid things like I did, and you get stupid answers. Thank you, Stig. We appreciate it.